Hello and welcome to Young Climber. Today's scene is definitely a different one because you would think we are in the heart of a male-dominated industry, but no. Mcebo Smelane is proving otherwise when she is taking over the agricultural sector. Today she joins us to unpack what she is about and what she farms means to her, and most importantly, where her journey of farming started. Mcebo, siyabonga kakhulu. I'm very happy to be here with you today, especially right in the center of your business, right in the heart of umsebenzi wakho. But firstly, welcome to Young Climber.
Thank you very much. Ngiyabonga kungemukela and nekuthi nithathe all the way from Babane to visit Nitenal Shangan.
I'm very happy for you because, you know, as I had already mentioned, this is a male-dominated industry, and mostly you don't get. I haven't spoken to many female farmers, but today we are here, and I believe these are your roots. Lana is where Mcebo was made. Ngicela nje sikhulumise ukukhula kwakho right here la eShiselweni.
Okay, I grew up here in I grew up in Hlatikulu.
Yeah.
Specifically, Sbetamoya. So I grew up in a family of 4.
Okay.
I have a younger brother. So my mom begang tishela, so bengihlala eKotas on weekdays. But during weekends, we'd go home at Tambama. We like khona the farming because besihlala nabomkhulu la nemasim khona.
Yes.
And that's where my passion for farming comes from.
But, you know, we learned that you were introduced to farming at an earlier age, which is what happens for most emaswati lana kangwane, you know, vele kulima yinto yethu. It's part of our culture, I would say. But can we talk about a transition that was made in your educational space? Usakhula, usafunza, wasuka lana eShiselweni. And we know la Shiselweni, you know, it's a place. How was the transition for you, and why did you take that leap? Because it's so sugalana, especially to go to Mbuluzi.
Honestly, I didn't even I never even cared. It didn't come to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all the freedom and being away from emakaya. So I knew and it was all about the big city lights and everything. So it wasn't that bad. And when I got to Mbuluzi, I got to meet other people from Shiselweni. So it made things easier for me.
But certainly, I think that is when you were introduced to a much easier life. And I'd say, you know, you're always privileged enough when you go to a better school because you also had the opportunity to go to CEFAPS. I don't know if it was an act of disciplinary from your parents or just to say you want to, you know, make your education just a little bit better before you step into tertiary. How was that? And most importantly, the cultural diversity.
Yeah, okay, it was a bit hard for me, especially because it's outside Swaziland, you know, and it was easier for me to go home. So, Loguba away from home, it was very difficult for me. But it wasn't bad in terms of the languages and stuff because most people would say no spread bakuluma Siswati, so it wasn't that difficult. And with CEFAPS, so most of the time yes, there were people from Limpopo, different countries, so nabo bebaqhamuka with their languages. So but what made it easier was see most of us, okay, everyone really was forced to speak English, so we would use English as the medium of communication. So it kind of made things easier.
But then I have to ask, Ushito, ukuthi your love for farming yaqala kumkhulu. That's when you were exposed to the farming. Can you just backtrack a little, because I'm sure looking around this is nostalgic for you. Was the farming at a large scale? Now sakhula benjani benlima ini ekhaya nabomkhulu uze uthande kangaka kulima?
Mkhulu I would say ngesikhathi sanyalo bengathi he was a commercial farmer.
Oh, okay.
Bekamaningi kakhulu emasimi ekhaya. And okay, bekumasimi, and then mkhulu beka into livestock farming.
Okay.
So I would spend most of the time namkhulu I don't know why, but kwangisita because I got a chance good for more critical information. Back then I didn't even realize at this age or at this point in time I'll use some of that information. So yeah.
You know, ngalokuthi you mentioned the information part of farming, because you know farming is a part of education. You know, it's in our educational system. Siyabafunza about agriculture nasema primary nasema high school, but this is a whole different level of farming. Can you talk about the things that you have learned? You learned then, are using now netimfolo sotifunze nyalo lotisebenzisako as a part of your farming project?
Lokukhulu kakhulu is to keep your field clean. Unfortunately, ngikanzela mlingcoli due to the rains. So likhula liningi kakhulu. But my grandfather nje bekangifundisa kakhulu to keep your field clean, because the more there is weed, the more it attracts my insects. As you can see, some of the leaves here. Setidlegile dinzetse.
Okay. All right.
So to keep away all those things, you have to keep your field clean. Yes.
And how do you ensure that, you know, there's continuous learning? But firstly, let's backtrack to your time after matric. Because after matric, you were fortunate enough again, you know, it's such a privilege to break out of your ordinary space. To study at UP. Can we talk about what you did there before we get into the details of farming here in Eswatini?
It was international relations.
Yeah.
So, okay, I studied it for like 2 years, and then along the way, which I discovered that I'm not passionate with this. So that's when I took the decision. I go, you know what, let me go back home and focus on farming, because I've always wanted that. It's just that nasisa kula, everyone will be like, oh, I want to work in the corporate world. I can guarantee you ukuthi nasingayithi ikolweni nyalo ngifike ngibude ukuthi ngibani lofuna kuba yifama, you might find ukuthi kude. Everyone just funa kuba pilot, teacher, nurse, and doctor, you know. So nami I had that nangiphuma ka matric ukuthi I want to go to the corporate world, you know, climb the corporate ladder. But when I was there, I discovered that no, it's not for me.
I think many of the stories that I listen to, Mcebo, you know, they actually go like that. Vele, you go from one thing to the next. Vele, your passion sometimes is sidelined. But ke says kulmisa this work, this project necessarily, you know, you did talk about people that are an inspiration to you when it comes to the farming industry here in Eswatini. And you seem to know everyone that we mentioned. So how have connections, well, not connections, relationships rather, worked for you in building this place? Because there's only so much that you can know as Ushito. It's a learning curve, you know, you learn as you go. How has that helped? How have relationships with other farmers helped you in building your work?
It has helped me very much, because when I started farming, bengadinje just the basics. Very, very, very little information. I had very little information. But then I got to meet Bo Menzi. Luang mentorisha nje ku first year yami until nalo nje. That's one guy lenye consulted kuena nginedinginga. So he taught me a lot of things, and other farmers, because the more you interact with other people, you get to learn different information. How do they deal with this and that? Because Kansas lomunye lima cabbage, lomunye lima butternut, so Bangisite kakhulu. It's in farming nje, I would encourage every farmer ukuthi abe nayo relations with other farmers and followish other farmers, and yeah, it really helps a lot because vele angeke ungene ne-information wati konke.
Yeah.
So it's really important to interact with other farmers.
Okay. I'll definitely agree with you, Mcebo. You know, relations and networking plays a very, very big role. I think certainly in any industry, because siyaldinga sito from other people who are a bit ahead of us, you know, to get ahead ourselves. But okay, we'll take a short ad break. When we return, we talk about how She Farms started and, you know, what's keeping you inspired to keep the wagon going. But that is only when we return. Welcome back. We are most certainly in the belly of the beast because this is where all the work gets done. This is where She Farms is born. This is what the brand is literally about. You know, when did you remember good time, man? So this is what I'm going to do. When did it actually start?
Okay, it started in 2021, but COVID.
Yes.
Then, but to go on a much bigger scale, on 2022. So then the brand She Farms, okay, the history behind it is that okay, I actually wanted to say it's to name it Mcebo Farms, but then I was like, it said I don't want my name to
associated.
Be, yes,
yeah.
So rather I go for I Farm or She Farms, and then at the end of the day I went for She Farms.
She Farms.
So that's how the brand came about.
And you know, we were coming from difficult times of COVID. Is that when you realized that maybe there could be a food insecurity lagangwane because most things were setting a figi into the country? Was that your realization, Eguti? Maybe I need to step in.
Yeah, but it was very difficult to break in the market at that time because most webamfu bebangasebenzi baphelelwe imisebenzi. So bebangathengi. But I had to go back to the drawing ground and you know, what is it, what can I use, what aspects can I apply, that information. Now you're saying how do you approach the market, you know, what other aspects can you come or ideas you can bring into the market, because you know what, I have this idea, how about we try this and that, and then and it goes back to what we were talking about before the break. See, you have to interact with other farmers, create relationships with other farmers. So nabonga approach guys loku sekwendeke loku ni break kanjani ku market. So they shared that information and then I applied it.
Mcebo, you know, I like that you mentioned lama tactics lo wasebenzisago in farming. Lengicanga ukuthi kumqoka kakhulu, especially here in the Kingdom of Eswatini, ukuthi unake ukuthi wendela imarket lenjani. Can we talk about the crops that you have been farming? Because angeke uze ulime radish uyithengisela bani ngoba thina asidla idli radish yabona. What are the crops that you've been farming since you started Lamugelwa Maswati?
Okay, all along I've been producing cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, and lettuce. And the market yami bekubo Spa, Pick and Pay, and okay, bomake basemakethe bengibasebenzisa ngisaqala kubaga farming. So I've worked with those retail shops, and we have a good relation until this end of last year. I decided to do a crop rotation and go for butternut. So this is the first time I'm even planting or butternut.
For you, it's an experiment.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's what farming is all about. I think farming is one of the riskiest experiments you can actually be in. Because as a farmer, you can't save yourself from bad weather. Well, with the new technologies that are being introduced, I would say maybe but when how has things like weather affected you, you know, insects, controller, but how have you made sure you're protected from such things?
Yeah, climate change is a huge problem for every farmer actually.
Yeah.
So unfortunately kudelongako that you can apply or longakwenda kuze ucontrol it. But kukhonyana longakuzama like kube nema shading nets.
Yeah.
For just to avoid both sunburn and stuff. And it is affected kakhulu climate change. Like letimvula njenyalo, as you can see here, is kubangwa ngilo too much rain, and the butternut lamanye beka split emkhathini due to the wet conditions. So it has affected us a lot. But we try and apply some of the things like the shading nets and lamanye which we introduce varieties lamanye lokhanza sibahesho ukuthi they are resistant to pests and whatnot. So we usually go for those varieties. Yes, and then you create your spraying program to make sure everything stays good.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting into the retail space when it comes to farming. We're eating your crops, you know, at our homes, but we're discovering it now. Apart from that, how have you managed to, you know, expand she farms? Because you've worked with you've now in shops, but how are you planning to expand the brand? Because how many hectares is this?
It's 0.8 to a hectare.
You see, it's a hectare. How are you then planning to expand it? Maybe kubo 5 hectares, kubo 10 hectares. What are your hopes and dreams for the space and the crops that you want to produce in the future?
I can say kwanyalo. I'm hoping this hectare will give me enough capital, you know, to reinvest and acquire more land.
Yeah.
And then definitely I plan to venture into livestock farming, more especially goats. I have a passion for goats and sheep.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my plans for hopefully this year. By the end of this year, I would have.
You have expanded.
Yes.
Okay. And then when it comes to funding, it's a very, very important question because lo munye umbukeli angabona lo when want to start, but you know we're at a 0 point. Kona labete naloko kuqala. Has funding played a big role in terms of, you know, growing your brand and making sure that it's sustained for you, or everything you've done was out of pocket?
It was out of pocket. Fortunately for me, I have a 8-to-5 job, so ngisebenzisa not to fund this business. Otherwise, good delenye income for lago besides the one out from M17. So.
And there's a very, very important thing that we spoke about earlier, which is, you know, sustainable development goals. And I feel like you are certainly addressing number 2, which is food insecurity or no poverty. We are not CISA as a country because you're ending poverty, I would say. How important is it for you to make sure that your goals and visions are met in line with the Sustainable Development Goal?
It is very important because okay, i-role to be in alignment with goal number 2 is ukuthi njengoba ngisho ukuthi ngifisa ukuthi this place to grow.
Yeah.
And sengiyati ukuthi the more it grows, the more I get to employ other people. So nabo bayakhona to place food on the table.
Okay.
So yeah, and then maybe to even penetrate in my foreign markets.
Yeah.
And export some of my produce. That's the plan.
And before we end it off, there's a question that I'll go back to. The question of working or being in partnership with other small businesses like Angwane? Because I would say you are an aspiring agripreneur.
Yes.
Who have you worked with in terms of small businesses, be it deliveries, be it packaging? Bobani lo khonile ukuthi usebenzisane nabo in any industry, because it doesn't have to be agricultural. Umuntu wemoto akasi agricultural, but you are putting bread on their table essentially.
Okay, I've worked with, besides my retail shops, I've worked with Mcebo community, because ngibola bangsita kakhulu, more especially when it comes to weeding and packing some of the produce. And then delivering, okay, most of the deliveries I do them by myself.
Okay.
And then I've worked with letinye titolo tema chemicals, because lokunye ukhanza ukuthi awukwati. So you just go there, you ask yabachela. Sometimes you have to go with the plant. Okay, this is what the plant yami yenta kanjena. What can I do? What can I use to spray? And then I've worked with shops like Bo Sub. Sub. I've worked with Sub most of the time.
Yeah. And the idea of continuous learning in such a space, I feel, Mcebo, is so important, because ngeke uzukwati konke at the end of the day. Mele uhlale ufunda. And I like that you're saying you're picking up information from different spaces as you go. But when it comes to workshops, do you think that we're being provided with enough information lana ekhaya kaNgwane for farmers, to learn and grow, most importantly?
Yeah, I think so, but it's very unfortunate. See, when you attend those trainings, you only find 5 people, and ukhanza ukuthi they are free, most of those trainings. So yeah, I would say they are enough for me. So far, experience, I think they are enough, because now, okay, they are trying their best, but now and go to them. You can't always expect them to come to you. So now we research and okay, lokunya lokungsitile mine is latitolo. I always approach or make relationships with laba manager baka fruit and veg, because they are the ones labatiga cool information. So ngiyayengibute ukuthi like in June yini letabe iku shortage. So ngibola bangitshela ukuthi okay, ngajuni kutabe kunaloku sitabe shoda ngaloku. So and then I go back to the drawing board, like okay, then I do my research. See, okay, since it's winter, itawukhona yini survive butternut. I'm making an example. So if ubona ukuthi no, there are varieties they winter and it inga survive, then I go for that.
And then moving into the idea of technology before we close off. Siyabona ukuthi we can accept that, a starting point, labanye banisela ngemvula, but you're fortunate enough, you have an irrigation system going on. But how do you hope technology, especially in the irrigation space, will help you?
Irrigation system is very important when it comes to farming. It's the backbone of farming. And okay, I started with furrow irrigation because I had no equipment at all. So for now I'm using sprinklers and for now I'm sebendela, but but yeah, it's very important as a farmer to invest in your irrigation system, especially in Nyaloge with what's this, drip irrigation. So now I'm planning to go that route very soon.
Mcebo, thank you so much for joining us here. Just your last parting words to any aspiring farmers. It doesn't even have to be young people, because laveni kulima wonke muntu, and I feel like kulima is actually the backbone. It's what keeps the country going. Most importantly, can you give any advice to aspiring farmers in the country if they are singing when they're inspired by the work that you've done? Because I did mention several times that this is a male-dominated industry, but nangu mage ukhonile umuntu a female has done it, and you are dominating. You're in spaces where we could only imagine to be in. What are your parting words to aspiring farmers?
I would say farming is not for the faint-hearted, first of all, but it's doable.
Yeah.
You have to be passionate ngayo, ungangeneli imali, because that's one mistake labayendako bamfu, because bevatha umhlabathi unemali. And you have to put in long hours. You can work until very late, more especially during harvest time. You find ukuthi uphuma as late as 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I would say it's doable, but you have to do your research first and, you know, interact with other farmers, create a relationship with other farmers. Lasebagile industry for a very long time.
Yeah.
In that way, you'll make it.
We hope that people will be creating connections with you because, you know, I feel like you are now experienced and you're one of the leading people in the industry now. But thank you so much, Mcebo, for joining us. You know, there's so much information that we can be unpacking, but I do hope that this will be inspirational to onke emaswati la limago na lafunago lima. But that is it from us here on Young Climber. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that one was very beneficial to you. We will be seeing you next week, Tuesday at 6:30, same time, same place. For myself, Tabitha Dlamini, and the team, it is good night and God bless.